What's up, y'all? It's Mo from DIM University, back with another conversation. Now, today, we're not going to talk about basketball that much. We're really just going to talk about the process. I'll have some basketball references because that's one of my comfort spaces and things that I know very well. But one thing that I always think about is I listen to a lot of people give talks and things of that nature, and I'm like, how do they come up with these ideas and these concepts? And for me, I wasn't listening to the song Let It Be, but it just kept coming up in my brain. I was like, let it be, let it be. You know I can't sing, but that song was just in my mind, and I was just like, yo, I think the Beatles made it, I'm pretty sure. But I don't even listen to that song, but that song kept coming up, and I was like, let it be. Okay. So I wrote it down in my notes, and it was right after The Miraculous of Normal, which we talked about last week. And this week, Let It Be has just been so clear on my mind. And I think it stems from this concept that we talked about last week, the miraculous of normal, being consistent. And I believe that we have to reiterate kind of what I was saying last week, but in a new way, a similar concept. But I really want to dive into just kind of trying, letting it be, and just fully being yourself and just trying and putting that energy out there. So let's talk about it. We're not going to dive into definitions. We're just going to kind of go into it, because for me, when I hear Let It Be, or when I think about this, I think about trusting the process. And everyone maybe has heard that term. You hear it a lot in sports terminologies, right? You say, trust the process. And what usually happens during that time is you have younger players on a team with no leadership or guidance, right? You just have a bunch of young players who've never played in this specific league or at this specific level. And they're just going out there every day, trusting the process of whatever their coach tells them and moving in that direction. So what's going on during that time? Well, you're messing up, you're learning from your mistakes, but some days you're going to have some highs, other days you're going to have some lows. And it's just kind of balancing and figuring that out as you go game by game by game by game. So for me, when I heard Let It Be, it made me think about my story as an entrepreneur. And that's something that I don't always tell. I'm going to tell the middle half of it. But long story short, I went through a process of trying to become an entrepreneur. I heard that I was going to leave my job in 2017. And to me, that was just God kind of speaking to me. Might be the universe for you, however you perceive it. So I heard that 2017, moved forward in it, and I saved up a bunch of money. So I had some income to keep myself stable as I was taking on this entrepreneurial journey full time. And that process was rough for me. I was doing a lot of the things that I thought I had to do to be an entrepreneur. So Instagram, showing that I was working every day, kind of not having a great work-life balance, having no structure, and figuring it out as I went, right? So I started in March, and off camera, we were just talking about this, how I went to Toronto to kind of find myself, because Phil Knight did something similar to that. Phil Knight is the CEO and the founder of Nike, and he went to Japan. So I was like, I'm going to go to Toronto and find myself, figure this out. And I did all these things, and I was spending a lot of money, and I was going to conferences and things of that nature. And by the time I got to the end of that year, I ran out of my savings, to be honest. And that was not the best time of stewarding over what I did. So obviously I was not budgeting. I wasn't doing a lot of the right things in this entrepreneurial journey. And that was tough. And I found myself in a tough space where I felt defeated. I felt like I just had messed up. And by the time I got to December, I had gotten a client, figured out how to kind of make my money, pay my rent, things of that nature. And that really helped to motivate me, because during that time, I really focused in on my quiet time, really having time by myself where I was praying and meditating. And during that time, I felt like there was some guidance in there, but I still needed to try and figure those things out. And we'll touch back on this. Just give you the cliff notes of where we started. But for me, during that time, there were 4 points that really helped me focus that out, right? The first point is you're going to learn by making mistakes. So when we think about our journey that we're going on, We're going to make mistakes. Some of us have anxiety to make mistakes. I'm a planner. So like I got this week, next week, I got all of that stuff planned. And if anything messes up my plan or there's a mistake in there, it's going to give me some type of anxiousness. Others of you, we just kind of go day by day, figure it out. And with that, it helps to calm you when you know like it's okay to make a mistake, really. And really, you should think about it. It's good to make a mistake because now you're figuring out how to go about it in the right form or the right way. So making a mistake is so important. So let's just say you're on your internship or you're at your first week of the job and they ask you to do a report and you don't fully know how to do that report. Rather than just not doing the report and not putting yourself out there to try something because you're scared you're going to make a mistake, try, but seek guidance in trying that. Or what you also can do is you can do the project, and then if you have a stumbling block in the middle, rather than being like, I'm just going to kind of try to do it, right? Chat with someone. They'll give you some advice. They'll give you some guidance in that space. And that's where you're making the mistake, right? You made the mistake because you didn't know how to do it, but you're overcoming that mistake and you're connecting with someone else who's going to help you to push through that. And by pushing through that, not only, right, we talked about this last week, you're strengthening a relationship by reaching out to someone, building that up, right? Building a connection there. And then on the other end of it, then you're learning. Now, because you've learned that, now what that's going to do is that's going to entrust the person who gave you that assignment to give you something more. And in the corporate structure, that's how you build upon the work that you're doing, right? You show that you can do something, and then they give you the opportunity for the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And that's how you grow. So these are some things that are really important, but you have to put yourself out there. And putting yourself out there means you're going to make a mistake. And they know that. You're not going to be perfect. And because we all have that understanding, now you can feel more comfortable to try. The next thing is you want to explore your new limits about yourself in a stressful situation. So when we talk about that specific example of putting yourself out there for work or trying something different, you're going to be stressed out a little bit. And we know we talk about, well, if it's stressful, don't really go after it. Or if it's going to like cause you some type of anxiety or harm. Yes, that's 100% true. Always focus on your mental health first. But to get to that next step for you, you are going to have to persevere. You're going to have to try. For me, going back to my story, it was about running out of that money. And because I ran out of that money, I said, hey, you're not budgeting. You need to figure out how to have month-to-month clients so you can work that in your budget so you can pay rent on time. Because for me, when I get in a stressful situation, it feels like if I don't get this done, I'm going to like not make it or die, not to be too morbid, but like that's where like that flight or flight kind of situation comes up to you, right? You're trying to figure out like, if I don't get past this, how am I going to survive? How am I going to live? And when you do that, you have to take a deep breath. You got to relax. You got to go back to what helped you get through previous situations in your life. And that's how you push through those. So for me, what I did was, well, I prayed and meditated. I went to my resources like we talked about, right? Who are the people that you trust around you that can help you in those situations? How can they help push you through those situations or give you advice on how to get through it? So like I said, the relationships are very, very important because that is something that you're really going to focus in on. And then also within that is you're just going to have to try stuff out, right? And in that, some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. So really understanding that and moving forward in that is going to ultimately help you to figure it out. And once you get through that stressful situation, now you can look back and now you're creating what I like to call muscle memory, right? That muscle memory is just you proving that you can get through whatever that specific situation is. In sports, I told y'all I'm going to do a basketball analogy, but if y'all know Steph Curry is the best shooter, we'll put a link to Steph Curry so you can see who he is. But when you shoot a basketball, you're pushing it forward, right? So you're utilizing the muscles here and you're utilizing the muscles in your wrist. And after you shoot thousands and thousands of time, it just becomes natural to you. So you're not even thinking about it. So when you hear these NBA players, these great, great players go into these situations where they hit the buzzer beater or they hit a shot with their eyes closed or whatever, it's because they've practiced it so many times. And for you, that's the same thing you have to do in your career. You want to practice these tough situations, right? The things that are going to stress you out a little bit, the things that are going to bring you a little bit of anxiety, not too much, don't want to overwhelm, right? But the things that are going to stress you out are going to become natural to you, where it's like, oh, I've seen that situation. Oh, my coworker reached out to me to finish this project. I've done that before. Or my classmate asked me to do a last minute thing because they have a family emergency. I've done that. So I can handle the stress. And now when you have that muscle memory, it's a natural reflex. So you're just like, I know what to do. And that's why having that community of people is going to be so important. And I'm going to stress community because having a group of people to talk these things out to is very important. And it can be very helpful to figure out and navigate these stressful situations. So it brings us to our fourth point of our conversation. My last point, actually, maybe I'll throw a few extra ones in there, but this is something to think about. And really, one key thing that I'm going to talk about is reflecting. I think it's so important, but let me get to the point and then we can tie back to that. You'll start to see yourself improve. You're going to see yourself changing. And one thing that is so important in change is you have to note the areas that you're changing. I think change, and as I've gone through a lot of my career and the stuff that I've seen, is change is hard to realize in the moment. And that's why reflection is so important. You'll go through life, the hustle and bustle, all of that stuff, the riffraff, the partying, whatever you're doing, right? But you'll go through that so fast. 3 months will blow by and you won't even notice how you've changed unless you set intentional time to reflect on that. And if you don't see how you're changing, you're not seeing how you're improving. You're not seeing how your career interests are redirecting itself. You're not seeing the potential opportunities that you have for yourself in that change. So one of the things I'm going to stress is reflecting. During that time, I reflected very hard. And in my reflection time is actually, right, going back to the entrepreneur story, in my reflection time, I actually realized, hey, one of my clients has not paid me. And another thing is there was someone else who reached out to me to be one of their clients as well. So during that time, I was able to reflect and be like, hey, let me reach out to this person. They're like, oh yeah, didn't pay you. I said, whew, needed that for the rent money because the rent money was very far from that time. But it really helped me. And in that reflection time, like I said, I figured out, hey, Mo, you need a budget. You need to have an understanding of paying your monthly rent early, right? So for a lot of our freelancers, we might get an influx of money 1 month and then no money in a few other months. But it's really important to budget and then paying that stuff early. So as I transitioned to January, that was my mindset. I was focused on, let me get ahead of these finances. Let me be offensive in my approach. So that really helped me because the rest of the year flew by so quick. We went on tour. We did a bunch of different things and I was so excited in that moment, but I understood where I had come from before that, right? October, November, December, that time period was a little tougher for me, but reflecting on it, I said, man, this time period really helped to build something in me. So when we went on this run where I don't remember what happened from January to about like May, I was still stewarding over my finances, making sure that everything was set up. I was strategic and offensive in the moves that I was making, setting up contacts and building relationships, right? And really investing back into my community. So those are things that you really want to focus in on. So what does that look like for you in your space, right? Well, maybe it means, you know what? I found this internship a different way than I did last time, right? And now you're realizing, hey, I found this internship by building a connection with this person. I found this internship by reaching out to the company, cold emailing them. I found this person by going out with a friend, right? And not saying those are going to be your key ways to do it, but now you have different opportunities to build those relationships, to build that network. And as we know, like I've stressed so much, community, community, community. It's very important. Make sure you're leaning on that community to help not only help you with your reflection, but also find those opportunities because That's something that we forget all the time. We always want to go after something new, but we don't realize what's in front of us and the people who are guiding us on a day-to-day basis. And that's why, like I said, reflecting is so important, because when you reflect, you can say, oh yeah, my cousin Anne-Marie, she helped me. Or my cousin Tyler, she was the one that helped me get this opportunity. Or my friend Miranda, she's the one that actually told me about this internship, right? And now you built that up. And you can create more opportunities like that by getting involved with clubs, right? By getting involved with your professor, right? Talking to your professor and figuring out, hey, do you have any contacts? So just taking that offensive approach is going to be very helpful. And then the last thing that I always want to end with is, right, making sure that you're always reevaluating your dream career. I know for myself, right, and I can only speak for myself, but I can give suggestions and ideas and thoughts of other people's stories that I've seen. I know for myself that when I first started in this, I really wanted a creative agency. I built that creative agency. I did some events, and then I started to reflect and I said, you know what? Working with the interns at that creative industry has been some of the most fulfilling work that I've done. So we shifted from DIM events to DIM University, and we'll talk more about that in other episodes. But shifting that was realizing, me reflecting and saying, hey, this is something that actually fulfills me a little bit more. So let me try it. Let me see how I can help and give back. And then we started creating content, focus on helping students. We're doing this, right? This is something that gets me out of my comfort zone as well. So going back to what we talked about, where we started, letting it be. Let this process happen, because the process is organically going to happen, but put some offensive moves in there, right? Put some moves where you're focusing on reflecting. You're taking time out of your schedule to work on learning, figuring out where you made mistakes and growing in that. Maybe you're taking notes, right? I love to take notes on my notes app. Some people like to take notes handwritten. So everybody has their own thing that they're doing. And these are the things that can be deemed helpful and useful as you progress through your career. So let's go from the top. You're going to learn by making mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Nobody thinks that everyone is going to be perfect. That's not a real thing in the world, right? There is a difference from just being sloppy and making mistakes versus trying something new and making a mistake. Let's differentiate that. 2, you're going to explore new limits by pushing yourself in stressful situations, right? When it gets tough, don't give up. Try in that instance. That's actually, I feel like it can be the times where it's most rewarding. It can truly help you to navigate the things that are coming out in your future. So for me, that October, November, December, when I lost a lot of my savings and then I figured it out, that time helped me from the next year, January all the way to May, to have a successful run and really build the foundation of my company. 3, create that muscle memory, right? January to May, my muscle memory was great. I was hitting the jump shots. These are jump shots that I was hitting in business, right? Not really a real jump shot, but just a metaphor, let's say, right? So doing well. And then 4, you're going to improve and you're going to see yourself change. Be okay with that change. Embrace the change. Don't fight the change. Change can be hard. So maybe change looks a little different where it's like, hey, I told my friends last year that by this time I was going to have a full-time job in graphic design or at an agency. And now it's changed to, you know what? I really like social media and I want to be a content creator. That's okay. But you're reflecting with yourself and you're seeing these are things I enjoy doing versus what I thought I was doing. And I always will stress this. Internships or programs, shameless plug, like DIM University, are really helpful to get you to figure these things out because you're not going to know until you try. So that's my biggest thing is just let it be, try, go through this process, trust the process, and it'll ultimately help get you to where you want to be. So, in conclusion, like I always say, if no one believes in your dream career, we at DIM University believe in it. And if you need help, feel free to message me, ask questions. We want to be a free resource for you at all times. Peace.